Snoop Dogg just pulled his entire music catalog from Spotify. Why? Because after 1 billion streams, he only made $45,000. What? Let that sink in for a moment. 1 billion. With a B. That's like selling out Madison Square Garden every single night for 50 years straight and walking away with barely enough to buy a new car. This number shook the entire music industry. And then it got even crazier. A Spotify executive clapped back, saying 1 billion streams should pay at least $3 to $5 million. So you're probably asking yourself, what happened there? How did Snoop end up with less than what some people make in a year? The answer exposes a dark reality about the music industry and what it means for you as an artist. Here's the problem. Yes, Spotify does pay artists, but that money takes a long detour before it ever reaches them. Let's break down what really happens behind the scenes. When a song gets streamed, Spotify doesn't pay the artist directly. They pay the rights holder, which usually means record labels and publishers. And then the splitting starts. You've got songwriters, producers, engineers. The label takes a huge cut. Publishers grab their share. By the time that check finally makes it to the artist, there's barely anything left. Let's look at Snoop's case. His song had 13 collaborators, writers, producers, and that's not even counting labels and publishers, all demanding their piece of the pie. So that 45,000, that's what was left after the industry took its cut. And it's not just Snoop's problem. Drake, Taylor Swift, Kendrick, every major artist who doesn't produce his own music and is signed to a label faces this. They don't own their masters. They don't own their publishing. They don't control their earnings. Streaming doesn't pay much to begin with. And when you're splitting it 10, 20 or even 30 ways, you're left with nothing. But here's where it gets crazy. See, 1 million streams on Spotify pays around $3,000 to $4,000. Let's say you're getting 100,000 streams a month. That's about $400. That's not even rent money. Now imagine that you have to split that with your producer, other songwriters, your label, your distributor, your manager. That's why major artists are constantly on tour. Streaming alone won't pay their bills. But here's where you can have an advantage. What if you were independent? You write your music, you produce it, you distribute it. That means 100% of your streaming revenue goes to you. No middlemen taking your money, no massive splits, no label cuts. This is why artists like Russ have never signed deals. This is why he produces his own music. He owns everything. And it works. Russ made $10 million in a year just from Spotify and Apple Music and other platforms' payouts. No producers, no other writers, no labels. He does everything himself. And he's not alone. Tech9 built an entire empire as an independent artist. La Russell makes more per stream than most mainstream artists. Chance the Rapper stayed independent and still won a Grammy. They figured something out most artists don't. So what's the move? Simple. Own your music. That means writing it, producing it, and releasing it. Keeping every dollar that's yours. And before you say, but I don't know how to produce music, let me stop you right there. Producing your music isn't some crazy impossible skill. You don't need a fancy studio anymore. You don't need expensive gear. You don't need to go to school for years. You just need a laptop, some basic software, and a little guidance. That's exactly how Russ, Tech9, and thousands of independent artists build their careers. They figured it out. They built their own sound. They built their own fan base. And most importantly, they kept 100% of their money. And in 2025, it's easier than ever. But most artists never take that step. Not because they can't, but because they don't know where to start. That's exactly why I've built DIY Musician, a free community to help independent artists produce their own music, grow their fan base, and actually make money doing it. Inside, you'll get free courses on beat making and music production, a network of like-minded artists, and exclusive resources to help you release your music professionally. If you're serious about taking control of your music, come join us. And if you want a personal game plan, book a free music growth call with me or one of our team. We'll break down your goals your strategy, and how to actually start building a career from music. The game has changed. The artists who own their music are the ones winning. So, are you ready to be one of them?